Can somebody say something just so I can see if my sound is working?
Good evening.
Perfect. That'll do it.
Casey.
Greetings, all. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's about 7 o'clock. I'm not quite ready to start, but I just wanted to say hello, and we'll start here in about 2 minutes. Thank you all for joining us tonight. All right. Hello and good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick, and we'll be doing a chat clinic tonight, the first of the 25-26 decode season. Welcome back for another year of FTC. It's been a very interesting year this past year in terms of things that have happened within Texas, and we may talk about that a little bit. But I'm really glad to be able to start this new year. It says I'm muted. Just a minute. Am I muted? Just a minute.
I can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, it was just a late message. Fair enough. Thank you. All right. So welcome to the Chat Clinic series. I'm Patrick. And for those of you who have been around in North Texas for a while, you know that we've done these for many, many years. This is just a regular opportunity for us to meet and talk about the latest news affecting First Tech Challenge. And now, thankfully, I'm able to say that this is, we're able to do this Texas-wide, and we're reaching Texas and even other states outside of Texas. This has always been designed to be open, and so we're really, really happy to have people here. The purpose of the chat clinics is to allow people to get together, ask questions, and of course, we have a lot of news about the upcoming season. So with the announcement about the new advancement format that came out last Thursday, and then the competition manual being released yesterday, I wanted to go ahead and do a quick session so people can ask questions, can maybe get some questions answered, and we can see about how things will be going in the upcoming season. So with that, let me just open the floor real quick and see if anybody has any burning questions that they want me to include in today's discussion, or you can put it in the meeting chat, and we'll have eagle-eyed spotters who are watching the meeting chat and can pop in with questions that are there. But does anybody have anything they want to say before I start with the presentation part of what I'm doing today? Okay, well, not hearing anything. As always through these, if you would like to say something, feel free to put it in the meeting chat, or you can unmute yourself and interrupt. I don't mind interruptions. We really want this to be something where you can get information that you find helpful or interesting. So
I
with
have a
that,
question.
yes.
I see the meeting is being recorded. Is it accessible later for us?
Yes, this is also being live streamed to YouTube. So it will show up on a YouTube channel later, and I will make sure that we get links out to the YouTube recording of this so that people can look at it later.
Awesome. Thank you.
The only exception is if I say anything really, really wrong that embarrasses me later, then I might edit the video. But otherwise, yeah, it should be out on YouTube.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Hey, Patrick.
Yes.
I want to know what you're most excited for this season.
What am I most excited for this season? I am really actually quite interested to see how this new advancement system works. When I saw it and as I've been able to play with it, I am like really looking forward to it. You know, last year, at the beginning of the season, at this time a year ago, we had the new competition manual that came out, and there were all sorts of new rules and a whole new manual format. And I from my perspective, what they did last year was a success. Like it was very, very successful in terms of the rule changes that came about, made for some exciting play. Last year, I was very excited for the changes in the playoff format. I just think it made events better. This year, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the advancement system does. And of course, who can't be excited about more World Championship slots and more premier events? You know, more opportunities for things. And I'm going to cover that here in a little bit, but that's my excitement. I wish I knew more about the game, like I'm sure all of you do. I'm eager to see what the game is, but we still have to wait another month for that. So in the meantime, we can be excited about the parts we do know about. All right, let me see if I can get my screen share to go here. Oh, actually, I'm going to do it a different way here. Just a minute. I have not yet set up my my system for the year for doing all of these for all my tech stuff. So let me see if I can get that. All right, and let's do share, and let's share this one. Okay, let me switch. Can you all see the slides? I think it's probably correct. All right. If this doesn't work out, I'll have to go to another format and do some things differently. All right. So tonight's topic is going to be primarily the advancement and the competition manual updates. And again, as we go through and you have questions, feel free to ask questions. There's a lot to cover here. So I think I'm going to take up most of the hour to the hour and a half with covering things, especially if we get questions, but we'll see where we go. First of all, if you're in Zoom, and we always do this for the chat clinics, I might suggest that you can right-click on your name in the participants window. You can add your team number. That just gives us an idea of where you're coming from. It's not required, but often we just like to be able to see who's here and what team number they're with and so on. Some of the top line impressions and takeaways, just a minute. This looks like it's the wrong slide deck. Let me see if, yeah, okay, good. So the purposes of the chat clinics, we do these throughout the season, and this is it's a regular meeting forum. I try and do them, a couple of times monthly, usually on the same day of the week. They've been kind of ad hoc-ish the last couple of years because things have been so busy. But wherever it says NTX in these old slides, just think Texas now. We're doing this Texas-wide. So regular meeting for coaches, teams, volunteers, and so forth. It's a place to get the latest news, updates, and information for First Tech Challenge, especially as it goes in Texas. We will often do tutorials and tips. If you have questions, as we do other chat clinics, if you have questions about I'm having trouble with this, with my robot, I need some ideas on how I can make my team better, things like that, then we will set up breakout rooms where people can go into a breakout room to talk about specific things. And of course, it's a chance to socially network. When I'm doing the chat clinics, because I'm basically doing things off the cuff, I always include this disclaimer that the stuff you hear here should not be considered official. And that's even though I'm now, along with Emily DeMille, the program co-leader for First Tech Challenge in Texas at First in Texas. So, a lot of people will say, oh, well, Patrick said it there. If I say it in the chat clinic, because it's so interactive, I'm going to ask that I'm not get held to it too strongly. So consider it unofficial. If you want to get it official, then send an email or send a note or something so we can get it in writing and I get a chance to do it. So, and anytime that I represent things that I may have heard from other places or whatever, that's also unofficial. Until you get an official announcement, it's just not official in my book. Some top line impressions and takeaways for the season, and I should have added a bullet point here since we are looking at Texas. I'll add a section at the end where we'll talk about the fate of the Texas State Championship for this upcoming season, but we'll do that towards the end of this chat clinic. So the top line impressions and takeaways that I have is, first of all, an announcement came out last Thursday that First Championship is expanding to 336 spots. Secondly, there's a new advancement point system, which I really like a lot. Advancement is still from events to a next level event. So a lot of people can look at the new advancement system and theorize about what might be possible, but a lot of things remain the same. And there are some new awards. The Motivate Award for those who have been doing First Tech Challenge for a while has gone away. And there are new awards that replace it called Reach and Sustain. And we're going to be talking about these topics and others as we go through tonight. So let's just look very quickly at the First Championship and the premier events. Again, if you read the announcement, I'm not really presenting anything new, but we can analyze it a little bit. So the big one is that the First Championship is increasing to 336 spots. And that is an increase of 80 spots over last season, the into the deep season. That's 31%. That's a huge increase. This actually gets us back to pre-pandemic levels. In the season leading up to the pandemic, the First Championships, there were two of them, one in Houston and one in Detroit, added up to a total of 320 spots. And this gets us over that number. So we're now really, really having a large FTC championship. And I'm super happy that this has come into play. And then on top of that, we have the first premier events, which will probably add another 500 to 600 spots, quite a lot more spots as well. If you go through and do the math for everything. So, we're talking about, almost 1,000 teams potentially being able to move beyond their regional championship to a another event that is a championship level event or a very high quality event with lots and lots of competitive teams. And so that's really exciting for me as a member of First Tech Challenge, because we know that for the last 4 or 5 years that getting advancements from different places has been really hard, and it's nice to see First headquarters really listening, really looking at where the problems are, and making this big of an expansion. One question that we often get is, well, with that many spots, how many divisions will there be at First Championship? And I'm just going to say, we'll probably have to wait for kickoff to get anything official on that. I've been watching FTC Discord, and the folks on FTC Discord do lots of theorizing and predictions about how many divisions, and I think some of them are pretty good and some of them are off the mark. But in terms of what it physically looks like for those who have been to First Championship before, when we try to get 336 teams into that small space, I'm pretty sure First headquarters has a handle on it. It'll be a little bit tight, but it'll be fun. Before I go to any other topics, are there any other comments or questions people have about First Championship or about Premier events?
Does that 336 number include FLL, FTC, and FRC?
Just FTC.
Okay, thank you.
Just FTC. And so all the numbers I gave were just FTC spots. I don't know how large the FLL festival is at World Championship or at First Championship. I know that in FRC, it's like 600 teams, somewhere between 400 and 600 teams. Yeah, FRC is about, somebody put in the chat that it's about 600 teams. There's a message in the chat asking me to give wild personal predictions on the number of divisions. I actually know the answer, but I can't share it, so I'm not going to do a prediction. So sorry, not going to walk on the personal predictions there, because I actually have heard what the answer is going to be. And there's a few things where I do know some information about things that are happening at First headquarters, and I can't share them just because of positions I hold in different groups and so on. So I'll try and avoid giving away anything, and but feel free to ask. I'll just say no. All right. So next we're going to talk about things that are in the new manual, and the first thing we'll lead off with is the advancement updates that are there. But for those who are new to First Tech Challenge, I just want to do a very quick review of the way that the competition manual works. Just a very quick section of basics, and then kind of use that to set the frame for the rest of the conversation that we'll have today. So the competition manual comes out. We just had a preview release that came out yesterday. I've been looking through it and comparing it with last year's competition manual, excuse me, to find the differences that I can see and see any highlights. And I have slides for all of those a little bit later on. But the competition manual has these specific sections in it. So there's an introduction, there's the season overview, there's the eligibility and inspection, and so on down the list. And so each of these sections identify that particular aspect of First Tech Challenge. And this is the common resource that gets used by the event directors, by the teams, by the judges, and so forth, about how the entire First Tech Challenge competition structure is to take place. There's always little things that are in supplementary manuals, but this is really where it starts. The preview manual that came out yesterday brought us these sections that are highlighted in white. So you can see the first 7 sections, which includes eligibility, inspection, advancement, event rules, and so forth. Those all came out, and we also saw some of the updated robot construction rules. And then there's a glossary that's there. So these are the things that came out yesterday that we can kind of look at in some detail for tonight and talk about in terms of being prepared for the season. The remaining sections that are still in the dim gray are things that will be released on kickoff day. And kickoff this year is on September 6th, I believe. So it's in September. Many Texas regions will be holding kickoff events. So be watching for messages from your local partner about when those kickoff events will be, how you can sign up for them, what activities will be taking place, and so on. So that will be the time when we learn like all the game details and what does the field look like and what are all the rules for this year's game and so on. Inside of the manual, there are conventions about the rules and rule numbers, and I'll be using those throughout this document. For a lot of the slides, I just cut and paste images out of the new competition manual to be able to talk about them and refer to them. The different letters, I is for things dealing with inspections, E for events, G for game rules, R for robot construction rules, T for tournament rules, L for league play rules, C for championship rules. I need to go back and add A here for awards rules. So there's just a lot of the rules begin with a letter that indicate what aspect of the competition it's about. And they usually come with a 3-digit number that identifies the section and the specific rule. So for this particular rule here, R307, this is from last season. It is a rule that because it starts with an R, it is a robot robot construction rule. 3 means that it's in section 3 of the robot construction rules, and it's the 7th rule in that section. So R307 tells us something about it. Every rule has a headline that is the abbreviated version of the rule, but is not official in any way. It's just a short way to remember the rule. If it's green, then it's considered an evergreen rule, which means it's intended to last from one season to the next in some form or fashion. If it's in orange, then it's more specific to that season that the manual is addressing, and so on. And then my image there is hiding part of the text there at the bottom. The black part of the rule, the part that's in black text, is the part that is the actual text of the rule. This is what judges and contest officials and referees are supposed to follow, is whatever this black text actually says. And there's not supposed, and it's the authoritative source on it. There's no other sources that you need to go look at anymore in order to figure out how a rule gets interpreted. It comes directly from the text, and so it's designed to be as unambiguous as possible. So that's the way that rules work inside of the manuals. Any questions or on the overview of the manual system? Lon Cherry Holmes, who is like always quick to post links in the chat. If you're not following the chat, he already put in there the key link to use.
I gotta call him back.
Oh,
Which is to go to ftc.game, tends to have the latest things, and so it's always like one of the best places to go look if you need to get stuff. Okay, so let's just go into advancement points. Competition Manual Section 4 has been totally redone for this season, and I'm really excited about what it has. So many of you who have done First Tech Challenge in the past, and actually let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Let's go to the manuals, and I want to go to last year's manual, and let's go to Section 4, Advancement. So many of you who have been in First Tech Challenge before will recognize this table, right? And so this table is the advancement order. And the way that advancement order worked in previous season is that for any type of event, whatever it might happen to be, we would go through this list to decide which teams would advance in which order. So the first team to advance could be a qualifying tournament host team. The second team, or is listed as number 1, the Inspire Award winner, and the Inspire Award is the top judged award at the competition, would be the first team to advance, say from a qualifier to a regional championship, or from a regional championship to the first championship. And so in order to determine which teams would move on to the next level of competition, we would walk down this list. And we would say the Inspire Award winner goes first, then the winning alliance captain, the team that was the captain of the winning alliance after all of the playoff matches were played, they would be the next one to move. And then their partner, whoever they picked, would be the next one to move. And then the Inspire Award second place would be the next one to move, and so on down this list. And it was a fixed list that if you won the Inspire Award, you were absolutely certain you were moving on to the next level. If you were the winning alliance captain, you knew generally you were second in line to move on to the next level. And so this has been a fixed list, and versions of it have been around since I've been involved in First Tech Challenge 12 or 13 years ago. So this has been just a fixture of the whole First Tech Challenge program for quite a long time. That has been completely replaced this year. And so the new version is based on what are called advancement points. For those of you who may have familiarity with FRC in recent seasons, this may look very familiar to you because it is modeled after the first robotics competition style of advancement. It's modeled after the way they do it in what are called first robotics competition districts. It's also the new way that they've been doing regional advancements in FRC. So let's go through and look at what the advancement points model looks at. First of all, the sources I'm using for this, these are all online in a variety of different places. The big one was the blog post that came out on Thursday called Advancement and First Championship Update. Blog post that had the overview of what the advancement model is. Secondly, linked inside of that, and I think a lot of people aren't aware of it, there's a FTC advancement white paper that covers the whole advancement model in greater detail. And then finally, there is the manual, the preview release of the competition manual that came out yesterday is included as well. So what are we looking at? It's designed to reward well-rounded teams. That's a change from what we did before. We're combining robot performance and awards using a points model. The whole new model completely replaces section 4.1 in the competition manual. And one thing to make clear very early on is because if you come from FRC, then you know that advancement points in FRC accumulate over a season. That's not what is happening for FTC this season. Excuse me. Advancement is still per event. So the advancement points that get calculated are at an event. Every team comes in with 0 advancement points, and whatever they earn in that event determines if they move on from that event to another event of some sort. You can see that I just copy and pasted the rules here. The advancement points calculation rule. For each advancing event, teams will be ranked on the advancement points they earn through their performance at that event. And then the top ranked teams based on advancement points that have not already advanced from a previous event qualify for the next level of play. And you just go through the advancement points from highest number of points to lowest number of points, skipping over any teams that have already advanced to the next level of play, and till you get the whatever quantity of advancing teams has been identified for that event. So that's very similar to the way it's worked before. The only difference is the way that we rank the teams. Instead of using that table that existed previously, that is, instead of using this table, we now use the new point system. So let's look at the point system. So every team at a tournament, so this does not apply to league meets. League meets don't have advancing teams. League meets don't have judged awards. They don't have all of these things. So this really applies to tournaments. And so at a tournament, which could be a league tournament or a qualifier tournament, there are 4 ways to earn advancement points. One of them is what's called the qualification round performance. And this is how well your team performed during the qualification matches, which take place during the earlier part of the day. And in the league, it includes qualification matches that are brought forward from the league meets. And at the end of the qualification matches, every team has a ranking called their qualification rank. And so depending on how well you rank, you get a certain number of points for that. After qualification matches are done, we then go through a process called alliance selection. And those teams that end up being picked or become captains in alliance selection, they get points for where they appear in that resulting alliance selection process, either as a captain or as the team that is picked as a partner to the captain. You get points based on that. Once the playoffs begin, after the alliance selection has been done and matches are being played, teams can get points based on how far they progress into the playoffs. So the winning alliance at the end of the playoffs gets the most points. The finalist alliance at the end of the event gets slightly lesser points. The third place alliance gets less than that. The fourth place alliance gets less than that. And then finally, there are the judged awards. And these are the team judged awards that teams have always used. These include things like the Inspire Award, the Think Award. And depending on what award you get and what place you get points from those awards. So you take all of those different categories, the number of points you got in each category, you add them up, and that is your advancement score for the event that you're at. And then whoever has the most number of points gets to advance first. The next in that list gets to advance next, and so on. So that's the basics of the advancement points. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide on advancement points, and then we'll stop and talk about it, and then I have some examples. All right. So the first part, so there's 4 parts. Let's just remember that. There's 4 parts here: qualification round, alliance captain draft, playoff advancement, and team judged awards. So I'm going to go through each of these parts one at a time to identify the number of points that are there. So the first one is the qualification round. And the team at the end of qualification matches that has the highest rank, that is, they are ranked number 1, they get 16 advancement points for that achievement. And the team that is at the bottom of the ranking list, that they had the least desirable qualification round performance at the end of the qualification matches, they get at least 2 points. They could get more than 2 points, but they get at least 2 points. And all of the other teams between rank number 1 and rank number last get some number of points between 16 and 2. And it's not a linear scale. It's normally distributed using some really complicated formula that I've never figured out. And this is why I'm grateful to have a scoring system to do it for me. And the distribution looks something like the graph that you see here. So what this graph is showing is based on the rank of a team, and this is for a 28-team event. The team that is ranked number 1 at the end of qualification matches would get 16. Team number 2 would get 15. Team number 3 would get 14. Team number 4 would also get 14. 5 would get 13. 6 would get 13, and so forth. And when we say it's a normal distribution, what we're really saying is that the bulk of the teams are clustered around the middle. They're clustered around getting 10 points. That's where most of the teams end up. The ends, there's only one team in this situation that got the full 16, and the team that's on the bottom scale, there's only one team that got as few as 4. So it tends to try and make a bell curve and distribute the integer points between 2 and 16 among all of the different teams. Any questions on advancement points before I go on to the next one? Okay, not hearing any, so I'll go on to the next one. So the next one is alliance order. And in First Tech Challenge, after the qualification matches take place, all of the teams are ranked. They're going to get points based on whatever rank they have. And the top teams in the event get to become what are called alliance captains. And they are allowed to pick a partner who will join them for the remainder of the tournament in what are called the playoffs. And so we will end up creating some number of alliances. It depends on the size of the event. Most events that we have in Texas end up getting 6 alliances. They're kind of designed to do that way. And so the number 1 ranked team becomes the number 1 captain, and they select from all of the other teams and say, who would you like to, would you like to join us for an alliance? The team that they select has the option of declining. If the team that they select agrees to join the alliance, then that becomes the number 1 alliance. Then the next captain that is in the line gets to choose and pick the number 2 alliance, and so on down to the number of alliances that are going to be created. The teams on each of those alliances get points based upon where they end up in that alliance draft, that what we call the alliance order. So if you are a team on alliance number 3, if you are the captain, you get 21 minus 3, which is 18 points for being the alliance captain of the 3rd alliance. And if you are the alliance pick, then you get 21 minus 3. Again, the alliance number stays the same. You also get 18 points for being on the number 3 alliance. And so each of those Yeah, each of those gives you the number of alliance points. So, the number one alliance captain, you can kind of do the math here and say if you're ranked number one at the end of qualification rounds, then you're going to get 16 points because you're ranked number one, and you're automatically guaranteed to be the alliance captain. So you're going to get another 20 points just because you're the captain of the number one alliance, right? So if you rank number one at the end of qualification matches, you already know that you've got 36 advancement points towards your total going into the going into the playoffs, and that you're pretty well ahead of the game. For all of the other teams, it remains the same. One important feature that I really like about this alliance selection process is that the team that is invited to join the alliance gets the exact same number of points in the playoffs as their captain. And so previously in the advancement order, the captains always advanced prior to whatever teams they picked. And that was kind of a recognition that the captains had ranked higher in the event in the qualification match. So they got priority in order to be next on the advancement chart. And that led to some situations where a team being invited to join an alliance would decline the invitation because it was more important to them to become a captain than to join an alliance where they might actually have a better shot. And the new advancement system gets rid of that entirely. If you agree to be on a alliance with your captain, then that will actually maximize the number of advancement points you can get by saying yes if you progress far through the tournament. You can still decline, and so declining is very much a viable option. But now the only reason that I can think of that a team would choose to decline an invitation is because they believe they will be able to form a better alliance than by joining with the captain that they have. And so the things that we saw a lot of this last year in Texas, where regions would have only 2 advancements, and so teams would decline alliance invitations because they wanted to preserve that they would be a captain, that kind of goes away in this particular system.
So is this alliances at the beginning of alliance selection, or in the order
at the
in
end
which
of alliance
is
selection?
finished? No, when the competition's over, like how high the alliance ranks.
So that's playoff order, which is the next one. So this is not how far you make it in the playoffs. This is literally where you were picked.
Got it.
Right? So playoffs is another number that we'll do next. So this is if at the end of alliance selection, I am on the number 3 alliance, then I get 18 advancement points for being on the number 3 alliance before playing any playoff matches. Then playoff matches will add to that number. Some people will note and they'll say, "Wait, these two formulas are exactly the same. The captains and picks get the same number. Why do we have to call them out differently? Why don't we just say, you get numbers for your alliance points, whichever it may happen to be?" And I believe that they're calling out separately just because this is a new system, and so they want the option to be able to tweak it in the future. Like maybe the captain should get 1 more point than whoever they choose. I can actually make the argument for the other way around. To me, it has always been my opinion that whichever team is picked first in the draft is actually recognized by whoever was doing the picking as being the best team at the event, except for maybe themselves. But the number 1 captain gets a huge advantage because they have all of the other teams to choose from. So whoever they select may actually be, in their mind, better than them, and that's why they're picking them. And so I very much like that alliance captains and their partners get the same number of alliance points to recognize what I think is that kind of natural equality between the 2 teams. Obviously, they're not really unequal, but any inequality has already been somewhat accounted for in the qualification ranking points from here. The captain will always have more, well, not always more, but will have at least as many points as the team that they pick. from the qualification points. And so from that point on, in terms of robot game, the two teams are equivalent in terms of the number of points they get. Any other questions on the alliance order points? Okay, then next we
There
get
was
to the,
a question
yes.
in the chat, Patrick, about go back a slide with your normal distribution.
Here.
The question was, can two teams get 16 points?
Yes, for large enough events, it will be possible for number one and number two to get 16 points.
Right.
If you give me a second, I can look it up on another window real quick and see where that is. So a 36 team event is not enough to get there. In a 36 team, according to the graphs I downloaded, they're not official, right? So I don't know. Somebody else was generating these graphs on Discord. They looked good enough to me, for example. So I don't know what the actual scoring system would do, but according to the graphs I'm seeing, it is for a 36 team event, number one gets 16 and number two and three both get 15. And I believe for like a 48 team division or a 48 team event, number one and two both get 16, but don't hold me to that.
And not to mention that in a dual division event, there's two divisions already, and there's going to be two first places at the dual division event. So that.
Yes, the official rules about how dual division gets handled haven't been released yet, but that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
That if you're at an event that has two divisions, then you would have two number one seeds. And the number of teams that it's distributed by is likely the number of teams in the division as opposed to the number of teams at the event, because we're trying to spread the rankings out that way. Okay, so back to this. Any others on this? Because I can go on to playoff. So playoff performance. This is after the alliances have been created and you go into the double elimination bracket. And at the end of the bracket, you have the finals and we end up with an event winning alliance. And each of the teams on that event winning alliance get 40 points. The event finalist alliance, which is the team that loses the last match being played, they get 20 points. One of the nice things about the double elimination bracket is that we can actually identify third place and fourth place now. And so the third place alliance gets 10 points for being the semifinalists, and the fourth place alliance gets 5 points for being the quarterfinalists. So based on how many points you get in the playoffs, you add that to whatever you got for being on a playoff alliance, and you add that to your qualification rank, and that's the total number of advancement points you get for the robot game. There's a comment. There are a couple of comments in there. Do you know beforehand how many alliances there will be? Depending on the number of teams of the event, you can look it up in the manual. It's basically from, I forget what the number, I think it's like 12 to 20 teams. There are 4 alliances. If it's 21 to 40 teams, it's 6 alliances. If it's 41 teams and up, it's 8 alliances. And then Casey says in a dual division event, the weighting shifts towards the robot game and away for judged rewards. I've not deduced that myself. I'm not sure why that would be the case. So yeah, I'm not sure about that because each team can only get a certain number of points in each of these categories. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I haven't come to that conclusion myself. All right. Then our final category. So we've gone through qualification ranking. We've gone through the alliance selection process, the playoff process. The last one is the judged awards. And the judged awards are these point levels that are given here. If you get Inspire first, you get 60 points. If you get Inspire second, you get 30. If you get Inspire third, you get 15. If you get any judged award, if you get first place in that award, you get 12 advancement points. If you get a second place award, you get 6. And if you get a third place award, you get 3. So one key thing here is that in the previous advancement system, some awards counted more than others. Like the Think Award was the first award to advance in the list. And the Innovate Award was a couple of awards later, and then the Motivate Award was way down towards the bottom of the list. And so teams knew that the awards were ranked in some sense. And so if you wanted to improve your chances of advancement, then you would aim to make sure that you were a candidate for the Think Award, because it advanced way ahead of a lot of the other awards that were there. That ranking system, that awards, that quality system about some awards being worth more than others are now gone. All awards are considered to be the same in terms of their advancement potential. So if you win the design award, you get the same number of advancement points as somebody who wins the Connect Award, as somebody who wins the Think Award, and so on. And so all of the awards, other than the Inspire Awards, are equal. When looking at this, it's important to note that only the team awards in the competition manual earn points. So things like Dean's List, that's an individual award, not a team award that doesn't count. If the local event host decides to recognize a team for some of their characteristic that is not one of the standard judged awards, then you don't get advancement points for that. So that's an important thing about that. Let's see. So people are doing math in the chat channel. And it looks like the maximum advancement point score you could get at an event is 136. So that's kind of the unicorn thing. Emily asked, what if a team won a place in all the other awards? There's a rule about that, which we'll get to in a second, that you can only be mentioned once in the judge awards. All right. So if you pull all those together, what about dual division events? The advancement system for dual division events hasn't been released yet, and so we'll have to wait for kickoff for official details. I've made some of my guesses in these slides about how dual division events will work, so just be aware of that. But the official answers about how dual division events award points in special situations, they have those details have not been released yet. All right, so here's an example. So total advancement points, we'll have a team, we'll call it Team A. And at a 24-team tournament, they ended up being ranked number 2. So they get 15 qualification rank performance points. And so that's their number of advancement points. And they ended up being the captain of the number 2 alliance. And so that earns them 19 advancement points. Even though they were the captain of the number 2 alliance, they didn't make it very far in the playoffs. And so they end up with 0 playoff points at the end, because they weren't at least 4th place or higher. And for awards, they ended up being the Inspire 1 team, so they get 60 points. So you add those numbers together and you get 94 points is the number of advancement points that Team A got at this event. There's a question in the chat: in dual division events, are there separated awards for each division? That is not official yet, but I would be highly surprised if they do that, because they've never done that before. I've been surprised before, but that's not been a feature of dual division events in the past. All right, so there's the example for Team A. Does anybody have any questions about this example? I have another example coming up. Okay, so let's look at Team B. So Team B at the same event. Let me get my image out of the way. So Team B at the same event, there was a team and they ranked number 5 of 24. And so they are they get 13 qualification rank points, less than Team A, because they were ranked lower at the end of qualification matches. Their alliance rank, they were on the number 3 alliance. And so they got 18 points instead of 19 points for being on that alliance. And they ended up going all the way and winning the event. They were the winner of the finals. So that got them 40 points for their playoff results, because they were on the winning alliance. And they won the control award, which gives them 12. And so the awards for the control award, gives them 12. You add all those numbers together and you should get 83 points. Just add them together. And so between Team A and Team B, we would say that Team A advances before Team B because they have more advancement points than Team B. And so the scoring system will do this calculation for all of the teams at the event. And then it comes out with a listing basically saying, here is the order in which teams advance based on their advancement points. And that's how we determine advancement. So the next thing I'm going to do, I hope I don't get in trouble for it, but we're going to do it anyway, is I took the advancement point system. In the white paper that got released, they give some examples of some mythical events. Like, here's how the teams did at this mythical event, and you can see all the rankings. And I said, to heck with that, I'm going to do a real event. So I applied the advancement points model to last season's North Texas Regional Championship just to see how it would play out. Now, the North Texas Regional Championship's a dual division event, so I had to take some guesses as to how dual division would work. I think they were pretty good guesses. But this is what would have happened at last season's North Texas Regional Championship. Before I go into the details of looking at each one of these here, I'll note that at last season's regional championship, 3 teams ended up advancing to the first championship, and the order of the teams last season was that 18-270 advanced as the Inspire 1 winner, 71-72 advanced as the winning alliance captain, 22-077 advanced as the winning alliance first pick, and 85-65 would have been 4th on the list as the Inspire 2 winner, right? So the advancement order for those top 4 teams remained in the top 4, but 85-65 and 22-077 in the new system would have switched places. And it gets a little bit more interesting than that. But here, let's just go through the top. So 18-270, their qualification rank was 2, and they were the number 2 alliance captain. So because of their qualification rank, they got 15 ranking points. They get 19 alliance points because 21 minus 2 is 19. They did not make it beyond 3rd or 4th place. They did not make it far in the playoffs. They got kicked out relatively early, but they were the Inspire Award winners, so they ended up with 94 points. 71-72 was number 5 rank. They were the 3rd alliance captain. They were the alliance captain for the number 3 alliance. So they ended up with 13 ranking points and 18 alliance points. They were the overall winner in terms of the robot game, and they received an award. I believe they received the control award, and so that totaled 83 points. 85-65 was ranked 4th, and they were the number 2 alliance partner. They would have gotten 13 ranking points, 19 alliance points, 10 playoff points because they did make it to the finals in their division. And again, that's just a guess as to how dual division will work. And then they were the Inspire 2 winner, so they ended up with 72 points. 22-077 was ranked 17th in qualification, but they were picked to be the partner of the number 3 alliance. So they ended up with only 8 qualification rank points, but they got 18, the same as the 3 captain, and they were also part of the winning alliance. They were 2nd place for an award, so that gave them 72 points. And you can see all the way down the list how the rest of the numbers broke out for the top 8 teams at this event. Just looking at this, for me, we can see that well, first of all, almost all of the events that I've looked at in this way, and I've looked at a fair number of them, the results have so far been reasonable to me. They make sense. They seem like they are good enough to do it. The question just came up in the chat. What is the tiebreaker for number 3 and number 4, where both of them got 72 points? And the tiebreakers for advancement points haven't been released yet, except that the white paper does say awards points are the first tiebreaker. So 85-65 nudges ahead of 22-077 because they received 30 awards point, whereas 22-077, the 4th team, only had 6 award points. And so that would put 85-65 ahead. And it's really interesting to me to look at these numbers for coming from the history of FTC that I have, which is that the Inspire 2 and the Winning Alliance pick teams have frequently, there's been a question about whether or not the pick should go first or the Inspire 2 team should go first. For all the years prior to this last season, Inspire 2 went ahead of the Winning Alliance first pick, but this last season, the Winning Alliance first pick went ahead of the Inspire 2. And thus, that's what happened in North Texas this last year. I really like myself the fact that it's not such a rigid formula anymore. Here we have two teams that traditionally it was kind of considered who should we advance first and who should we not. And there's kind of a nice criteria there that says, hey, if you got Inspire 2, then if you got more awards points than another team, we're going to weight in that direction. So I kind of like that. And so that's really what I do. There's a comment here and says table 4.2 in the competition manual lists sorting criteria. Is it actually in the manual? That would be nice if it is. Let me go look. Just a minute. Let me pull up the manual here. I'm just going to jump there. Oh, yep, there they are. Cool. Advancement sorting criteria. So the first order in the sort is total number of advancement points, then judge team award points. If you had two teams that had the same number of judge team award points, that is, they both won an award that's not Inspire or something like that, then the next one is how many points they had earned in the playoffs. If they happen to be on the same alliance for the playoffs, then it's the alliance selection result points. If they were both on the same alliance, then we go down to qualification round performance points and so on down the list. And finally, if you get through 9 tiebreakers, then the scoring system flips a coin and one team goes home happy and the other one doesn't. So that's nice to know that was released. So anyway, that's the example for the North Texas Regional Championship. Again, at some of the examples that I've looked at, I just really like the way that things seem to break out. Whenever there's an odd situation, I've always been able to, in my head, said, yeah, that's odd, but it makes sense. It's justifiable. It's something that we can look at. One thing that we do see here in this chart is that it's really kind of important to win an award and to do well in the robot game, and that's what we mean by having well-rounded teams. That it's not one of the things that has happened in First Tech Challenge, at least in the events and the places I've gone to, is that you'll have some teams who will say, we're only going to work on the robot game. We totally don't care about awards. Our path to advance is going to be by being on the winning alliance or maybe the finalist alliance, and that's going to get us to the next level. And awards is very secondary to us. And then we've had teams who are basically focused on the awards. And they say, our goal is to get an Inspire award, and we don't care about the quality of robot we bring to the field. Or maybe I don't want to say they don't care, but we're not going to put much effort into the robot we bring to the field. And if we get an Inspire award, it doesn't matter if we rank towards the bottom of the teams there. We know that that award will get us to the next level. And now it becomes possible for teams to actually they have to consider the other side. They have to look at it, because an alliance that is doing well in both robot game aspects and in the judged awards aspects can go ahead of a team that's only doing one or the other. So an example of that would be, alliance number 1 here in this list. They were the Inspire winner, and that did give them the next number of points. But there are scenarios where they would not be the number 1 team to advance. If one of the playoff teams had also gotten a Inspire 2, then that playoff team could advance ahead of the Inspire award winner. For events that have large numbers of advancements, it kind of doesn't matter. The Inspire award winner team is always going to advance from that event, given enough advancements, just because it's not possible to get higher than what that gives you. But in events where there are very small numbers of advancements, it becomes much more important to say, how do I be well-rounded? How do I look at multiple aspects of the competition? How do I look at the competition as a whole, as opposed to just focusing on one aspect? I'm going to pause there. I've been talking a lot and open it up for questions before going on to some of the other parts, but I would love to hear comments or feedback or anything that people have to say about the new system or to add that I might have overlooked.
So Patrick, in years past, everyone knew that getting Innovate is more important than getting the Design Award, and that getting the Think Award is more important than the Control Award. Is that true this year, based on this?
Yeah, not based on the advancement point system, they're all the same. Get whatever award you can, right? And we'll talk about the award structure in a little bit more detail once we get past advancement. But if it's not like you have to win them all anymore to get Inspire either, right? You want to get one of you want to say that we're good in the machine computer interaction award category, and we're good in the team award category, and we're good at the portfolio and the Think Award, right? You want to be highly considered in each of those areas. But yeah, there's no more ranking about, oh, this award is more important because it advances earlier. No, they're all the same. Casey asks about the Judges Award. There is an award called the Judges Award, and that is for judges who, a group of judges who think that a team has done something that is super noteworthy and deserves recognition, but doesn't fit into any of the standard award categories. They can invent a category on the spot or say, this team merits recognition, and the Judges Award counts 12 points just like the other awards do. If you win the Judges Award. There's a limit of only one at an event. There's no second place or third place judged awards. So I don't believe there's a way to go crazy on the judged awards. So at least I think there's a limit of one at an event. I don't remember reading that. That's what I would expect. And some people have said in the past, oh, the Judges Award is something that is the feel-good award that you give to a team that maybe had a rough day. And I don't think that will last. I think there'll be some more guidance about what to look for to be meritorious of a judged award. But I like that First Tech Challenge has said the Judge Award has merit, and we should reward teams for doing things that may be outside of the categories that we've defined. But we're going to put limits on it as well, and just have that opportunity to recognize things. So I like that the Judges Award gets included.
Yeah, and also in years past, during the award ceremony, we would give the Design Award or what used to be the Motivate Award, and some teams would actually get depressed because they found out what award they got and that put them lower on the advancement criteria. This completely changes the ball game, and we're talking about we won't really know who's advancing until the last award is given.
Absolutely, right? I mean, absolutely. Like I can even imagine, I don't know how much the scoring system developers are going to do this, but I could actually imagine a advancement ranking, advancement points display being somewhere where as each award is announced or as each achievement is unlocked, then it updates the advancement points so that you can see where you are in the ranking in terms of advancement points. That would be like really, really cool. And so yes, it's no longer the case to me that you hear, that you won, say, the Motivate Award, and there's still some matches to be played, and so everything is all done if you're still in playoffs and stuff. You don't know where things are going to rank until you actually get to the end and all of the awards have been announced and the playoffs are finished. Then the final top rankings are going to settle themselves out, and we'll know which teams are advancing and which ones are not. Let's see. Can you win the Judges Award and Inspire? No, you can only win one. And in fact, I'm going to go to that one. Oh, first of all, are there any other questions on the points model? Because I think this is all I have on the points model. We can certainly come back to it. Again, I'm really excited about this. Not only that, I'm excited about it, but they are talking about things that could be done in the future. So just summaries, Inspire 1's no longer automatically the first team to advance. Typically, if they only did Inspire 1, but they didn't do well at all in robots, then they may not be first in the advancement chart. Teams with robots and awards tend to place higher than robot-only or awards-only teams. What I really like about this system is we get rid of the idea that you would decline because you need to be a captain. Right now, in the playoffs, in the alliance selection and playoffs, captains and their partners get the same number of advancement points, just depending on how the alliance does. I have seen a few situations where the winning pick advanced before the winning captain, usually because of award points, right? Award points were enough to overcome any difference in the qualification match. And there's room for formulas to change and be improved in future seasons. I wanted to call out a passage that's at the bottom of the white paper. And so let me just do that. This is how they concluded the white paper. And there's a lot of text here. But the thing I want to point out is where it says there are still more areas we would like to improve. Specifically, teams compete over the course of an entire season, while advancement only takes an individual event into consideration. A team may have had a fantastic year overall, but then experienced some bad luck, which ended their season. I know a bunch of teams that have been in that situation. In the future, we plan to explore a system where teams advance to the next level based not just at their performance at a single event, but also taking into account their performance at previous events from the same season. In this way, we would be able to better reward season-long consistency and excellence. So that to me is foreshadowing. That is foreshadowing that that this is not like done. And there are people who have already reached out to me having seen the new system, and they've said, hey, couldn't it be possible that instead of just looking at a single event, that you could add up points across events and determine things across multiple events in terms of who advanced, so it's not just a single season. And I think this paragraph indicates, yes, that is a possibility for the future. I can see all sorts of landmines in such a system. But I imagine there are some really great people working on it. And so I will be hopeful to see that this comes into play in future seasons. What has happened so far is already a big step. And I think to go to the next step might have been more than you could chew in a single season. And I think it's also highly desirable to find out what the advancement point system actually looks like before you start committing to, oh, it's going to determine, full season things, or there might be problems that we can make complexities there. Okay, it's already 8:05, so last chance on advancement points. All right. Some quick awards updates. So this is about the awards section of the manual, section 6. The big news is, of course, we have new awards. The Motivate goes away. I'm happy Motivate goes away. Judges and teams and coaches and volunteers for years and years and years have been confused about what is the difference between Motivate and Connect. And those have both changed over time. So the new awards that replace Motivate are Reach and Sustain. And I just popped in the brief descriptions here. So the Reach Award celebrates a team that has introduced and recruited new people into FIRST. Through their efforts, they have sparked others to embrace the FIRST culture, and you don't have to have a portfolio for this particular award. So this could be, in my mind, this could be a team is going out and they're starting up other teams. They're helping other teams get started. They're bringing more people in by starting up new teams. It could be people who are going in and they're helping to recruit volunteers, or they're, anything that they're doing that is bringing people into the FIRST community seems to me like candidates for the Reach Award. And so I like that has some clarity to it. And then the other new award that comes out is the Sustain Award. And this appears to be about teams coming up with sustainability things where they can sustain either themselves as a team, or that can create things that exist long beyond the team members that are currently on the team. And so the Sustain Award is looking at what are activities that you're doing in each season to make sure that your efforts don't end when you end high school, right? That you're doing something that looks at the long-term impacts that you'll have long after your first career as a student is over. So those are the two new awards that are there. With that, we now have a new awards distribution from what there was before. Some of you may have seen this chart before, but the Inspire Award is drawn from 3 different pools. There's one of them is the Think Award, and then we've had these 2 categories. One is machine creativity and innovation, and the other is team attributes. What this does is it balances the MCI and the TA parts. So before MCI had 3 awards for it, and the team attributes had 2, just connect and motivate. Now it has connect, reach, and sustain. So there's some sort of level of balance there. I think what this also shows is another advantage of the new advancement model, which is that FTC as a program can now add more awards. If any of you have been to an FRC event during the awards ceremony, they have so many awards that they give out to teams, to recognize teams for different aspects of what they've done. And we weren't able to do that easily in FTC because it would have exploded the old advancement chart that was very much awards based and achievement based only on, did you do it this way in the robot game, or did you do this way in the awards? And so now it opens the possibility that FTC can add more awards into the system to recognize different things that might want to be encouraged, and it doesn't substantially change the advancement model, or it changes the advancement model in ways that can be tweaked through the point values. And so I really like that aspect of the awards distribution. With each of the 2 awards, there are, of course, criteria, like there are for all of the awards. I'm just going to pull them up here and not go through them. For every award, there's a set of required criteria that the team has to be able to show that they did. There are a set of encouraged things that show how you went above and beyond whatever is required, that you can also use to distinguish yourself from other teams that might be candidates for this award. These things here, the Reach Award, they talk about outreach materials. They talk about how they create objectives, how they do successful recruitment of teams, coaches, mentors, volunteers, people who were previously outside of FIRST. How do they bring them into FIRST? And then the Sustain Award, that again has 2 required elements and 2 encouraged elements. So for the Sustain Award, they either have to look at their finance and financial sustainability plan, or how they plan their season projects, or how they sustain their team, how they track their progress towards this sustaining bits, and then how they divide the work up among team members, and how they can manage the team constraints that are there. So those are just the criteria for the Sustain Award. Any questions on the new awards? For those who have been in First Tech Challenge, right, this should look familiar. Although I know there are a lot of teams who go to the awards section having never read Section 6 of the manual. Please read Section 6 of the manual, especially Section 6.3 that talks about what each of the awards are and what the judges are supposed to be looking for. It definitely helps. Can I explain the Sustain Award more? I can't say much more than what's in the manual because that's all I know. So what's here is there. But again, what they're looking at is, they say the award celebrates a team that has considered their future team members and has worked to ensure that their team or program will continue to exist long after they've gone on to develop their careers. So again, it's about making sure that whatever they're doing now lives into the future, lives beyond when they graduate high school or whenever they leave FIRST. How can they do that? And like, speaking for my own team, 7172, we look at sustainment all the time. We think about not only the team members recognize the contributions that the team members who came before, what they made to the culture and to the way that 7172 operates that enables it to be successful. And they are always looking for ways to pay it forward, to make sure that those key things get passed on to future iterations of the team even after they're gone. So that's something that we've seen that works well for us on 7172. Some other things, just quick notes through the awards, and then I'll get to robot rules. They added this sentence to the 6.1.1 that when judges are considering awards, they're explicitly not to consider how well the team did in the competition. as far as evaluating for a judged award. Now, they could look at a robot's performance for some specific awards, like for Innovate. They could look at that where the criteria are, and that's the previous sentence. But the part that's highlighted in green here, we don't need a case of the judges going through and saying, well, how did they do in the playoffs? That's not really a part of the evaluation for judged awards, and that's been made explicit here in the competition manual. I see interesting reactions from Lon, I think. No? Okay.
Well, I mean, that was always our guidance anyways.
Right, but I know I have heard of judging situations where the judges would actually go through and say, you know, should we have somebody go and look at the rankings of the teams, or should we go and look at the how they're doing in the playoffs, and maybe consider that for specific awards, or, you know, trying to decide who should get Inspire 1 or Inspire 2 or things like that. And this makes it more clear that that's not supposed to be the case. Team portfolios. There was a new item added to team portfolios, which I also appreciate. Item E here at the bottom, which is, you know, we have some teams that are legacy teams and they've done things for long periods of time, and they take credit for previous season experiences in their this season judged awards. And this puts a pretty clear deadline on how far back you can go to take credit for what you do. And so for this season, according to A201, your portfolio should only include discussions of things that have taken place since January 1st, 2025. So that does reach a little ways into the previous season that you can include some of the things that you do there. I like this because, to me, that acknowledges the fact that different teams' seasons end at different times of the year. You have some teams whose season will end at, previously it used to say from the end of your previous season. And, you know, that could be seen as being putting a finger on the scale against those teams that actually played until, as will happen this year, until May. Right, that anything they did between, you know, up till May of the year, they couldn't count towards their next season, whereas other teams would have the opportunity to include things that they did after their season ended in January or in December or something like that. So this helps to set a timeline that everybody can look at and basically say, if you're taking credit for it this season, it has to be something that you did since in 2025 or 2026. You're not really including things that you did in 2024. When doing the portfolio, so these were orange box updates, and so orange box are advisory more than restrictive. At least they're supposed to be. So one thing is that team portfolios, and I know from having seen many of them, they give like full team member names and, you know, like where they go to school and their picture and all sorts of things. And in this day and age, we want to be more careful about what gets published or shared with others. And so teams are now being encouraged to kind of limit the personally identifying information that they might have in the portfolio about students. And so there's some guidance here that, you know, if you're going to identify team members or students, use only first names and possibly a last initial of the student. Photographs are still okay, so forth. So just and so just you know, be aware that you know, they're wanting to kind of you know, limit what the exposure that students may have by having their personal information in their portfolios. Also, this is of great interest to my team. The many teams are starting to use AI tools in the portfolio. My team does this as well. I mean, that they help. I guarantee the content is very much my team's, but they get advice from the AI tools on ways to possibly improve it. And so now teams are supposed to credit any AI tools as part of their portfolio for the parts for the fact that the AI tools were part of the thing. And so that was another interesting change that came there. There's a question in the chat with the rather general descriptions of each of the awards. Are there any quantitative methods used to judge each category to mitigate the judge's bias or favoritism towards certain activities? I'm going to punt on that question because I haven't done judging in a long time. And the real way to answer that would be to talk to a PDP or a judge advisor in your area, wherever that may happen to be, or go look at the judges' manuals and see what they recommend. So I'm not going to comment anything further there. But there's ways to be able to find out what happens, and I wouldn't presume to say it happens the same even everywhere in Texas. Judge interviews are now called structured interviews. That's just a term, but I like the new term. So these refer to the interviews that typically take place the morning of an event or that take place online if you're doing remote judging. They're now called structured interviews, and that's to recognize the fact that there's a very definite structure to the interviews that are there. And that would be in contrast to any pit interviews that take place that usually happen while the matches are underway and so forth. So that's just a term change that I hope people will adopt because the manual has it. And they've added explicitly A215, teams can only get one judged award. Teams are only eligible to win or be a runner-up for a single judged award at the event. So that's now an explicit rule that where it was kind of understood in previous seasons and maybe not directly followed, it's now explicit in the award section. There are two new awards. These do not add to your advancement total, and there are not many details about them. One of them is the Digital Animation Award, and this is my guess is based on having seen previous things in FRC that this is a team will create a digitally animated video and submit it to First Headquarters, and a panel of judges there will pick the best videos from all of the ones submitted, and then those teams will be recognized at events that around the world and their video gets played because they created a very clever, thought-provoking, funny, or otherwise noteworthy video having to do with First Tech Challenge or having to do with whatever the topic is of the season. And then similarly, there's a Safety and Animation Award. This has also existed in the First Robotics competition, and you can see the links in the manual even refer you to the First Robotics competition version of this award so that you can see what the criteria are there. That's these again coming from FRC. These are videos that get submitted to First Headquarters by a certain deadline. They have staff or judges who then determine the highest quality awards that deal with some topics surrounding safety. And then the winners get fame and fortune and get recognized in lots of different places, and their videos often get played at events. So I think that's awards. Anything else on awards before I move on to robot rule updates? And teaser, there aren't a whole lot of things. Question: if a team came up with an idea that resulted in great outreach in a prior season, and the team still uses that idea, are they allowed to include that, or do they have to be new ideas? To me, I can't speak for what judges would do, and I don't speak for what the judging criteria are, and I don't know what it would be updated. But to me, if you have a process or an idea that you use in one season and you get results, you can use that same idea or process in another season as long as you continue those activities in that other season. So, for example, let's say that I have an idea, and as a result, we were able to do outreach and we recruited 20 new people into First, right? And we did that in 2024. And then in 2025, we use that same idea and we go and grab 15 more people into First. I think you can count the 15 for this season because that's something that you did this season, even though the idea came from a previous season, but you can't count the 20 that you did last season. So that's kind of how I would break it apart. But again, I'm not official, so don't take that as being gospel. There'll be forums. The Q&A forum will open up where these kind of questions can get asked and answered. But that's the way I would tend to interpret it. Clarify the let's see. Clarify the anime. Oh, there's another one there. If volunteer is volunteer feedback really considered in the awards? I don't know. I think so. I mean, if we go back to the thing, and if you go look at the section in the manual that has this chart in it, where it says portfolio, structured interview, PID interviews, and event volunteer feedback. One of the things that it clarifies is that that's one of the tasks or jobs of the judge advisor is to collect the volunteer feedback and then pass that along as appropriate into the judging deliberations. Maybe I can find that section here real quick. So that was also a newish thing that appeared in the awards. So let me go find that section here. So in addition to the information provided in a team's portfolio and the interviews, judge advisors may also accept feedbacks about teams at the event from other volunteers to help inform their understanding of the team. And so, yes, and I do know of cases in events where volunteer feedback absolutely affected the judging results in previous seasons. So totally can do that. There's a question that says, please clarify the animation award. I'm guessing, because we don't have the details, but I'm guessing it's a 60-second video, because that's the way it is in FRC. Usually there's some sort of a topic that gets published by First Headquarters that says make a digitally animated video. So it's not going to be a video that includes like people. It's not live video. It's not anything like that, because it does say digital animation. So it's an animated video that is about that topic that makes people say, you know, hey, that's a good video. That's about all I can give. And I'm sure we will get more details at kickoff, right? I mean, this is not the end. Even if we go to the if we go to the slide that I have here, it says specific award criteria and deadlines will be available after kickoff. So this section will be updated at kickoff. In fact, the whole next sets of sections after awards are all coming after kickoff. So all the game stuff, all the robot game rules, the way the field looks, all that comes at kickoff. So kickoff is our next big event where we're going to learn a lot more about the upcoming season. Any others? Okay, cool. So robot rule updates. Last year, we spent a ton of time at this time talking about changes to the robot rules from the previous season. This year, it's not nearly as radical some changes. There are a few significant changes. And I've tried to put these in order of wow factor to me. Like, you know, when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, that's really an interesting one. So they don't go in the order of the manual. They go in terms of what I thought was most interesting to least interesting for teams and the like. So we'll look kind of briefly at robot rules updates. So one of the big questions that I know my team members have, I see on FTC Discord, I hear from all sorts of teams, is are there going to be expansion limits again this season like there were last season? Last season was the first time that I'm aware of that First Tech Challenge had put expansion limits on the robots, and that constrained the types of solutions that teams could come up with. This rule is updated in the preview competition manual that came out. It seems very clear. The first 4 words, there are expansion limits. So I think that coming into the new season, we can expect the robots will have some form of expansion limit. After the match is started, robots may expand beyond the starting configuration, but are still subject to sizing constraints. The sizing constraints are, and then there is this really annoying game-specific rules will be added at kickoff on September 6th. So we know there will be expansion limits, but they're not telling us what they are. So we have to wait till September. But just in terms of talking to teams, like if you're imagining that you're going to build what they call an extendo intake, an intake that reaches 8 feet away from the chassis of the robot to be able to do things, that I would guess that's not likely for this season. Last season, the expansion limits were 42 inches in one direction and 20 in another direction was the maximum horizontal expansion that a robot could occupy. I would be shocked if it goes bigger than that. It could be smaller than that. We'll see what they are. I'm also guessing, since they didn't just publish the same numbers, that it's not the same numbers as last year. I have absolutely no idea if that's true or not, but you know, if it was going to be the same as last year, I think they would have just put the same numbers there. Motors and actuators. VEX motors are gone. If you don't know what a VEX motor is, then congratulations. If you've used VEX motors in the past, in First Tech Challenge, my team has. They have a mixed history. They've been legacy carried forward for many, many years. But starting this season, VEX motors, which counted as servos in previous seasons, are no longer legal. There's a new mention of a Go Builda 5000 series motor that I had not seen before, and that's considered legal. If you go through the list of motors, there's actually a little quote that's there that says additional motors may be added on or after kickoff, which tells me that the story on motors might not be fully baked at this time. Some vendors may be submitting new additional motor types that could be used in FTC robots, and we will hear about them at kickoff or possibly even later. So that'll be something interesting to watch. Last year in Into the Deep season, they introduced servo power limits. That is the limits to the speed and power that a servo could deliver. And those same limits remain in effect for the upcoming season, for the decode season. R503 defines how many motors and servos you're allowed to have. And I pulled this one out because this one made me go, huh, okay, that's really kind of interesting. Robots are limited to a total of 8 motors and 10 servos. In all previous seasons that I've ever been involved with, it was 12 servos was the limit. Now the limit is 10 servos, 2 fewer servos. So those are your new actuator maximums for the upcoming season. And they have some other restrictions on which ones you're allowed to use. I also included the top of the orange box here just to highlight it because some teams will have devices that they swap in and out of their robot from one match to the next. And it's important to note that the motor and servo limits apply to those devices as well. So let's say you have a robot and it has 8 motors on it, and you have a part of the robot you take off that has 2 motors, and you put another part of the robot with 2 motors. You violated the motor limit because your robot and all of its attack mechanisms, the sum total has to be less than 8 or less, right? Because that's how many you're allowed to use at a single event in all of your different configurations. So same thing is true for servos. People will notice and they'll go ahead.
Does that include just like backup subsystems?
No, it's defined for mechanisms. So if you had to replace a motor such that you're taking a motor out of service on a mechanism and you're putting a new motor in, then that doesn't increase your count. It's that an inspector should be able to see your robot plus everything you might ever attach to it, and count the number of motors, and that should be 8 or less.
Nice.
And then Kareem, I know you have the FLL background. It's the same rule that existed in FLL, except in FLL you were limited to 4 motors, right? Even if your attachment had a motor, you couldn't have 3 motors on the robot and 2 attachments with 1 motor each, even though only 4 were used at a time. You were limited to 4 motors. It's the same thing.
Cool.
Clark suggests that the new limit might be an introduction to the future control system. It could be. Who knows? When I was looking at what I wanted to say about why go down to 10 servos, I think it's important to keep in mind that especially in this period of time, First Tech Challenge is going through some really big changes. And as a program delivery partner for the state of Texas and being able to attend the first community conference and having conversations, there are a lot of changes coming down the line. And for teams or coaches or people who are like, it's always been this way and it can never change, I don't think the people who are at the top agree with that anymore. They are introducing changes. They're not introducing them, in my opinion, just to create change for change's sake or to make things difficult or anything. In my experience, they have really good reasons for the changes that they're making. I might not agree with the reasons in the cases that I know of, but they do have really good reasons. And so we can expect that the next few years of FTC, I think, is going to be very dynamic. But like the advancement changes, like the changes in the manuals, like going to double elimination playoffs, so many of the things that I'm seeing really excite me for the future of the program. So it's a reminder: rules can change, and that any rule can change, right? I've had conversations with people who wanted to create a new hardware device, and it would be legal in one season, and the next season a rule change would come out that completely invalidated the device that they had created and ordered thousands of to sell, and now they have a stock of unsellable devices. And I always tell them, hey, it's FTC, any rule can change, right? There's no contract that says this part has to stay the same. They do keep in mind how it affects teams in the ecosystem. That's very top of mind for them in my experience. But there are very few things that just have to remain the same from year to year. Battery and power connections. There's no more power button label. That makes me happy. It makes me sad, but it makes me happy. It makes me more happy than sad. For those who know, one of the requirements in years prior to Into the Deep, prior to this last season, you had to have 2 mandatory labels on your robot, basically. You had to have a power button label, and you had to have one that warned somebody that your robot might move at any moment, right? Or when it gets activated, it might move. Last year, they switched it down to be you only need the power button label. Now you don't need any label at all. And I totally like that. Because this tended to catch out teams during inspection, at which point there would be a mad scramble to find out if anybody had the label that they could attach to their robot. And speaking as a field person, and some of the other FTAs who are in the call or whatever can contribute if they think differently, I don't know that there's ever been a situation that I've encountered on a field as a head referee or FTA where the power button label made a significant difference to me being able to take some action. Certainly not to the extent to the hassles that it caused from an inspection perspective. I completely understand and support and agree with the idea that teams should be considering safety and labeling requirements. I completely agree with that. Doing it as your robot fails because you don't have a label mechanism, I think might be too strong a hammer, and we should look for other ways to do it. So that's kind of my thing. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in an event, I see my team, they're in the queuing station, and I look at the robot and we have no power label. And it's like, okay, like we forgot it and the inspectors missed it, and here we are. And so I'll go back to my toolbox where I used to keep a slew of power labels and go hand them one and say, discreetly stick this on your robot because your robot's not been inspection legal for the entire event. And they'll go through and do that. Also in here, R609, there's a new power switch that's available from GoBuilda. In FTC, you're only limited to very specific models of power switch, so there's another one that's been added to the list. Actuator power sources. GoBuilda is apparently creating a servo power injector device. I haven't gone to look for this device yet. The part number is there. I don't think it's been released. I don't think there's any information about it out there yet, based on what I'm seeing on Discord. But in addition to the servo power module and the robotic servo hub and the Studica servo power block, it looks like GoBuilda may have an offering in this area as well. So stay tuned for that. This is interesting for the robot rules. No grabbing the floor. Robots are not allowed to attach themselves or do anything that attaches themselves to the floor. And this is interesting to me. The example I can think of, not in FTC, but comes from FRC, is in the aerial assist season, which would have been in 2013. There was a robot that made it all the way to the finals at Worlds, and one of its unique features is that it had a plate on the bottom of the robot that they could actuate downward such that the robot would attach itself to the floor and could not be moved by an opponent. It basically became like this permanent blocker. So I think that's kind of what's being referred to here in R208, is that you can't have a mechanism that is basically designed to anchor yourself to the field surface. And so that's being made clear. I know that a few months ago, I did see in one of the forums that I frequent, somebody had posted designs for something you could put on a robot that would achieve this. And I haven't been able to go find out where that was or what forum that was in. I just noted it at the time and said, huh, so, people are actually thinking about how do they anchor themselves to the floor. But that's apparently been made not legal by this rule. And then I think this is the last one, or one of the last ones. R301, this is actually a new rule that got introduced at the beginning of the 12.3 section. COTS mechanisms are legal but have limits. And what I found really interesting is this B where it says COTS major mechanisms created as part of the official First Tech Challenge starter bots, as listed with the season materials. So there have been starter bots in the past, but it sounds like that's being made more official somehow, or something is happening in this starter bot. And for those who aren't familiar with what a starter bot is, these are robot kits or robot design plans that teams that are new to First Tech Challenge can just go and get those plans or get those kits and be able to put together a robot that can play the game, maybe not very well, but at least gives them a starting point from which they can then explore further, rather than have to kind of start from complete scratch without any idea of what might work, or to go through weeks and weeks of trial and error before they get some sort of thing that can work. So the starter bots in the past have typically referred to, these are idea robots or concepts that you can use as a starting point, and then you go through and start from that starting point and make a robot that is your robot that plays the game and competes in a season. So I thought it was interesting that that made it into the rules. Team number robot signs. The robot signs can get a little bit bigger. Last year, the rules for the digits in the team number sign were 2 inches nominally, and there was a little bit of a tolerance. Now they're 2.25 inches. They're 2.25 inches nominally, and you can go plus or minus half an inch in terms of the height of the numerals. The other aspects of the sign adjust accordingly. So it has to be a rectangular area that is either a blue background or a red background. It has to be at least 6.5 inches in the horizontal direction and at least 2.5 inches in the vertical direction. And you have to have at least a quarter-inch margin around the digits. So a little bit of a change there. It'll make for some interesting sizing conversations, I think, but that's just another note of a change. The operator console requirements changed. It's kind of interesting to look at this one relative to last year's rule. Last year's rule said there were certain things that you could have on the console and nothing else. And this no longer has that limit. It affected my team, interestingly enough. We used to have a battery tester, a small battery tester that we had on our operator console, so that we knew exactly where it was, and it was always at hand whenever we needed to test, check a battery. And we got all the way through the season and halfway through the Maryland Tech Invitational before a referee happened to notice that that battery tester was there and pointed out that under last season's rules, that was not legal, and we had to take it off of our operator console. The rule that made it not legal is apparently not there anymore, so we can put our battery tester back on our operator console and not have to worry about that, which I thought was interesting. I don't know how much, if there will be other limits added to this, but I noticed that one restriction went away. So that's the robot rules. Any questions on robot rules? Or comments? All right, the last section is really quick. Event rules. I think I found one event rule that changed. E503, or one event rule that changed significantly. I might have missed it. E503, keep aisles clear. And the full text of the rules, aisles must be kept clear. And I think this may very likely be the shortest rule by word count in the entire manual. So I thought I'd call it out. But I do know that this is an issue at many events where pit areas end up being crowded up next to each other, or you have teams whose stuff spills out over the limits of their pit area, and that becomes a traffic hazard for people who are trying to navigate from pit to pit. And so just making this explicitly clear, I think, is a useful rule to be able to point to and say, hey, you need to keep aisles clear. And if you don't agree to that, or if you're a repeat offender of that, then it can escalate to the consequences that are listed in the event section of the manual. So I think that's it. Oh, looking ahead. So things to look for as we get to kickoff. So of course, in September on kickoff, we can expect to see these sections with updated information or being filled in that were missing from the release version that just came out. There will probably be updates to some of the other sections as well, just little minor updates here and there, but this is what will happen in September. So on September 6th, go to a kickoff if you can. Definitely start getting the manuals, download them, read them, look through them, and we will undoubtedly have another chat clinic like this one where we talk about the game rules and the other things that have changed in those in these other sections that have not been released, so that teams can get a head start and have a good understanding for the season.
Patrick, question
Yes.
about in the chat: would brazing or welding be prohibited?
I will have to go and look that up.
And I guess it's also at the event versus in the lab at the school.
So no brazing or welding. E506 is very clear. Brazing and welding is prohibited. At the event, you can do brazing and welding for part of your robot, but I think the idea is that you're not allowed to do it like in the pit area or at the event. The qualification that you just gave me, right, which is like if you did it somewhere else in the school, like if you're a host team, I think that would be the example that you kind of described, or not?
No, I'm saying like if a team designs a welded robot and they bring it to the competition, E506 has no bearing on what they
Correct.
do in their meetings or how they design the robot. It just means that at the event, you cannot do any brazing or welding. It's a fire hazard.
It's a fire hazard and
an electricity hazard.
Right. There used to be something that said welding was allowed for robot construction, but I'm not seeing it now, so I'd have to go look. But there is a rule against doing it at an event. There is not a rule that I've seen that strikes me in the robot construction rules that says you cannot do brazing or welding as part of your robot construction.
I guess to be fair, a host team that welds or brazes their robot should not do it at their event.
Correct. I think that's a key thing to keep in mind, is that host teams or friends of host teams or whatever shouldn't get access to special facilities at a competition that other teams don't have equal access to. That's the way it's kind of phrased. Is that if you have a robotics lab and your team is using it, it's okay if you're making it available to other teams at the event. It's not okay if you're using your status as being the host team to get an advantage over other teams that are competing against you. Any other comments or questions or? Wow, there's still 58 people here. So thank you for staying over the hour and a half that I allocated. And thank you for being here. I'm always glad to do these and I hope they're helpful. And they're certainly, for me, they're a fun way to get the season started. When I start seeing the new manual come out and can start talking about the new manual and talking about the changes that are being happening, then I start getting really excited for the season because I know that a lot of changes are coming along. Oh, I didn't get to talk about for Texas teams, the Texas State Championship. So let me just go ahead and do that. An announcement came out from First in Texas last Friday. I can say that announcement was waiting on some other things to happen before the announcement could take place. And I encourage people to go read the announcement for the details. But the number one question that I received since last March was, will there be a Texas State Championship next year or not? For those who are not familiar with what happened in Texas, due to a variety of unfortunate things that happened last spring and last winter, the Texas FTC State Championship was canceled just about 6 weeks prior to the event. And so that caused all sorts of problems in terms of advancement, in terms of what teams were expecting, and so on. After studying the problem and really interviewing so many different folks from different groups in different parts of the region and so forth, I'm very pleased to say that we have decided that there will be a championship event for Texas teams. It is being called the Texas State Cup. And so teams will advance from their regional championships to that event. It will take place in March, and the actual dates are in the announcement. It will be held in Waco at the Extraco Base Center in Waco. And so we expect it to be a 72-team event is what we're planning for. And so that means each region will be advancing a fairly sizable number of teams to the Texas State Cup. In conjunction with that event, that's also the time when we do the UIL State Championship. So those teams that are part of public schools or that are member schools of the University Interscholastic League, then that championship will be the day before the Texas State Cup event. And so teams always look forward to that as well. It means that teams in Texas have a nice variety of options about where they can advance post-regional championship. So teams can go to the first championship, and or they can go to the Texas State Cup, and or they may be invited to the UIL State Championship, and or they may be invited to a premier event from First Premier Events. So teams, the season doesn't have to end in February when the regional championships take place. They can go on later than that. One thing that needs to be very clear about the Texas State Cup is it is an event without advancements. So it is no longer on the path to the first championship. Teams will advance directly from their regional championships to the first championship or to premier events. The Texas State Cup is a Texas capstone event where it's to celebrate Texas teams and allow the best teams in Texas to come together and compete against each other, but it will not have any advancements to the first championship. So the question becomes: is it possible to be invited to Worlds and to the Texas State Cup? The answer is yes. In fact, if you get an invitation to the World Championship, to the first championship, you almost certainly have an invitation to the Texas State Cup. It's the same advancement order. So totally you can be there. So yes, it's entirely plausible for a team to attend. The standard advancement criteria from first headquarters is that you either go to first championship or a premier event, but it's entirely possible for a team to attend first championship or a premier event and go to Texas State Cup and go to UIL if you're a school team. So plenty of opportunities to compete if you want them. And if you get that far, if you get to your regional championship. So we're really happy. We're looking forward to the venue is super nice. Emily and I were able to visit it here in July. It's been used before for other events, and so it's just fantastic. There's a question: is the Cup an invitational? The short answer is yes, but invitations will go out based upon the advancement order at the regional championships in Texas. That will be the primary criteria that determines which teams are invited and which ones are not. So that's the other big news that's come out. And again, find the announcement, the First in Texas announcement. First in Texas is busy redoing their website. We're expecting it to be a way more useful resource when the changes are done, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening fast and furiously to make that happen. So bear with us, give us a little patience on the website, but it's available in various archives and people have mentioned it different places. And so definitely, go look at the announcement for the Texas State Cup. And if you can't get that, then feel free to reach out to me and I'll shoot you an email that has a link to the announcement. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop with my stuff. So I'm just opening the floor for any remaining questions that may exist. to answer any questions about the upcoming season if I can. We will, as I said, we will undoubtedly have more of these in August and September to talk about the various changes that are coming along. Where previously we would often focus on North Texas things, I think we're going to use a more Texas-wide approach to these clinics. And thank you all for joining. And yes, I will stay around till everybody's gone. Except maybe Lon. I might leave if Lon likes to stay after me even. So.
Well, there might be a question I can answer. So.
Or there might be a question you can answer. Correct.
I'm too tired to stay on Zoom tonight.
Yeah, well, I bet. Start of the school
School
year.
started. Yep, second day.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording since we're not getting any questions here.